How do you raise $11 million without losing control of your company? That was the challenge facing two founders who built an innovative networking platform for college students. Venture funds were all over this deal with big checks in hand, but the terms were insane. Board seats, unlimited access to financials, and the right to appoint corporate officers. But by the time we finished negotiating, the company had raised $11 million, the founders kept control, and they were positioned to raise a $65 million follow-on round. In this video, I'll break down exactly how we did this and the most important things you as a founder should pay attention to if you want to raise money without destroying your business. Let's dive in. Two founders built this really cool platform that helped college students network with placement offices and potential employers. Think LinkedIn, but specifically designed for college students trying to launch their careers. They had traction, they had product that worked, and investors were interested. So they decided it was time to go for their Series A. But here's where it got interesting. And by interesting, I mean potentially disastrous. The demands these venture funds were making weren't just about the money. They wanted heavy control over the company. What the investors were actually asking for were things like the right to appoint directors to the board, and not just one seat, but the ability to put multiple people on the board. Regular access to management for consulting, which is a nice way of saying they wanted constant oversight over day-to-day operations, quarterly and annual financial statements, including full auditor reports, the right to examine books and records whenever they felt like it, copies of any documents, reports, or financial data that they requested, and the right to appoint someone as a corporate officer in the company. But early on, we warned the founders about what could happen. See, most founders don't start companies to have a boss. That's usually why they become founders in the first place. A lot of founders are frankly unemployable in corporate settings. Founders need that freedom. But when you have investors that are this involved, who have this much control in your business, you're not really the CEO anymore. You're basically working for your investors. The founders knew this could be a problem, but the founders also knew that they needed the capital to grow. Over the last 10 years of being a founder and helping hundreds of startups raise money as a lawyer, I've seen this happen too many times. Founders get so focused on closing their deals that they don't think about what happens next. The concessions that founders make when they're raising money have long-term consequences that aren't obvious when you're just trying to get the money. Here's a common scenario. Let's say you give investors big liquidation preferences because you just want to get the deal done. Everything seems fine, the company grows, things are going well, then 5 years later, you get an acquisition offer and you're excited. This is the exit you've been working toward. But then you do the math on the liquidation preferences and you realize that the investors are going to take most of your proceeds. Maybe you walk away with almost nothing after years of building your company. And this happens more than you'd think. Or maybe you want to raise another round down the line, but the terms that you agreed to in your Series A make it really hard for you to bring in new investors at reasonable terms. You've boxed yourself in. Now, before I explain how we solve this, if you're raising or you're planning to raise and you want to make sure that you don't make these same mistakes, click the first link in the description and book a free consultation with me personally. Now let me show you how we solved this situation. The approach that we took had three main parts. The first thing we did was make sure that everything was clean on the founder's company's end. Because if you go into these negotiations and your legal house is a mess, you have zero leverage. So here's what we actually did. We organized all their corporate documents. We made sure that they had records of board meetings, got all their contracts in order. We made sure IP ownership was properly assigned. And why does this matter? Because during due diligence, investors are going to comb through everything. If they see a well-organized company with investor-grade legal documents, they see a professional operation. And that is credibility. If they see a mess, they see risk. And when they see risk, they ask for more control to protect themselves. So we got the founders raise ready before they even started talking terms with investors. Step 2, negotiating the term sheet. This is where founders make the mistake of waiting too long to bring their lawyer in. But the term sheet is where all the important stuff gets decided. Investment amount, ownership percentage, liquidation preferences, board seats, voting rights. Once you sign the term sheet, you're locked into those terms. The final documents are just finalizing what you already agreed to. So we were in there from the beginning, helping position the negotiation, making sure the founders understood exactly what they were agreeing to, and pushing back on terms that would hurt them long term. The goal wasn't to kill the deal. It was to structure the terms so the founders could accept the investment without giving their company away. And step 3, working through due diligence and closing. Because we'd cleaned everything up before we started, due diligence went smoothly. The investors saw an organized, professional operation. And because we'd negotiated the term sheet properly, the final documents didn't have any surprises. We weren't scrambling to fix things last minute. We closed a deal with terms that protected the founder's future, both for future fundraising rounds and for an eventual exit. So what happened next? The company raised an $11 million Series A financing funding round. They had one of the venture fund representatives on their board. Because the terms were structured right, the founders maintained appropriate control while still getting value from their investors. The company grew, the founders executed, and they hit their milestones. And then they went back out and they raised another $65 million from a global private equity firm. That second raise doesn't happen if you screw up your Series A terms. If they'd given away too much in that first round, if the liquidation preferences were wrong, that follow-on round either doesn't happen or it happens on terrible terms. But because we'd protected them from the beginning, they were in a strong position to raise that next round and keep building. Now the truth is, every fundraising situation is completely different. There's no one-size-fits-all template that you can just pull off the internet for this stuff. And that's exactly why you need someone who's done this countless times already. And as a lawyer who focuses on this, I've negotiated hundreds of these deals. I know what terms are standard, what's completely out of line, and how to push back without killing your deal. So if you're serious about raising capital and you want to make sure you're protected, book a free discovery call with me using the first link in the description. We'll go over your situation and map out exactly what you need to do. So again, book your free call below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.